Let me guess. You've built websites that work, but they feel dead. The layout is good, the colors are good, the code is clean, but compared to Apple, Stripe, or Linear, something feels missing. Here's the secret. The difference usually isn't more JavaScript, it's motion. In 2026, CSS can do things that required entire JavaScript libraries just a few years ago. Smooth hover effects, product reveals, 3D card interactions, scroll-based animations, all with pure CSS. Today, you'll learn the exact techniques that make modern websites feel expensive. And by the end of this lesson, you'll build animations that make people ask, wait, how did you do that? Open VS Code and create a new project called Apple Animations. Create two files, index.html and style.css. If you're using GitHub Copilot or Cursor, you'll notice something interesting. Modern AI tools are excellent at generating animations, but if you don't understand how animations work, you won't know how to improve them, customize them, or debug them when something breaks. Today, we're learning the fundamentals that allow you to work with AI instead of depending on it. Let's start with the simplest animation in CSS, transitions. A transition animates the change between two states. For example, a button can have one color normally and another color when you hover over it. Without a transition, the change happens instantly. It works, but it feels robotic. Your brain notices the jump. Now let's add a transition. Hover again. Notice the difference? That's it. One line of CSS. Yet the entire interaction feels smoother and more polished. This is the first lesson of great UI design. Small improvements create huge differences in perception. A transition has 4 parts: the property you want to animate, the duration, the timing function, and an optional delay. Most of the time, you'll use a duration somewhere between 0.2 and 0.6 seconds. Fast enough to feel responsive, slow enough to feel smooth. Now let's move to the real superpower behind modern animations: transforms. If transitions are the engine, transforms are the fuel. Most professional UI animations use transforms. Let's create a card. Now when we hover, we'll move it upward slightly. Notice what happened. The card suddenly feels interactive, almost like it's floating above the page. This tiny movement tricks the brain into believing the interface has depth. And that's exactly what premium websites do. Transforms allow us to move, scale, rotate, and manipulate elements without affecting the layout around them. The first transform is translate. Translate moves elements. Translate X moves horizontally. Translate Y moves vertically. The second transform is scale. Scale makes elements larger or smaller. This is one of the most common effects you'll see on buttons and cards. The third transform is rotate. Rotate adds subtle personality and movement, but the real magic happens when you combine transforms together. You can move an element upward, make it slightly larger, and rotate it at the same time. This is where premium design starts happening. Companies spend millions creating interfaces that feel effortless. Most of those interactions are built from just a few transform functions. At this point, we've written almost no code, and yet our website already feels dramatically more professional. Quick question. Did you notice that we haven't written a single line of JavaScript yet? That's one of the biggest misconceptions beginners have. They think every animation requires JavaScript. Modern CSS is incredibly powerful. If you're enjoying these "wait, CSS can do that" moments, make sure you subscribe because we're about to move into 3D animations and scroll-driven effects. Now let's talk about keyframes. Transitions are great, but they require a trigger. Hover, focus, active. Something has to happen first. But what if you want an animation to run automatically? That's where keyframes come in. Think of keyframes like creating a mini movie. You define where the animation starts and where it ends. Let's build a fade-in effect. When the page loads, the element starts invisible and gradually becomes visible. Simple. But we can do better. Let's create a slide-up animation. Instead of simply appearing, the element starts lower on the page and moves upward while fading in. Now the animation feels intentional. It feels designed. And that's exactly the difference between amateur and professional interfaces. Professional animations communicate. They tell users where things came from and guide attention naturally. CSS gives us complete control over animations. We can define the name, the duration, the timing, the delay, the number of repetitions, and much more. This flexibility allows us to create almost any effect we can imagine. We've just hit our first major milestone. You're now creating professional animations from scratch. If you're following along, don't waste time constantly pausing and rewinding. Grab the takeaway summary and all the code snippets linked below. They'll save you hours of note-taking and give you quick reference material when you're building your own projects later. Now let's talk about a property that confuses many developers: animation fill mode. Imagine an element starts invisible. It animates into view, then suddenly jumps back to being invisible. That's usually not what we want. Animation fill mode controls what happens before and after an animation runs. The most common value is forwards. Forwards tells the browser to keep the final state after the animation finishes. In real projects, you'll use this constantly. Another useful value is both. This combines the behavior of forwards and backwards and is often a great default choice. Now we're entering Apple territory. 3D transforms. Most developers never learn this properly, and that's a huge missed opportunity. Let's create a container and give it perspective. Perspective acts like a virtual camera. Without perspective, 3D transforms look flat and fake. With perspective, the browser creates the illusion of depth. Now let's rotate a card using rotate X and rotate Y. Notice how it suddenly feels tangible, almost like a real object sitting in front of you. This is one of the most effective techniques for creating premium interactions. Many product pages use subtle 3D movement to make interfaces feel alive. The key word here is subtle. Premium animation is almost never dramatic. It's small, intentional, and refined. Quick developer question: which animation do you use most often? Translate, scale, rotate, or custom keyframes? Let me know in the comments and tell me why. Now let's look at one of the biggest CSS features of the decade: scroll-driven animations. Before this feature existed, developers had to write JavaScript scroll listeners. They used intersection observers, third-party libraries, and lots of custom code. Today, CSS can handle many of those tasks by itself. Let's create a reveal animation. Now we'll connect the animation to the user's scroll position. Watch what happens. As the card enters the viewport, the animation begins automatically. No JavaScript, no libraries, no performance headaches. This is one of the biggest reasons modern CSS is changing front-end development. Features that once required JavaScript are now built directly into the browser. Now let's put everything together. We're going to build an Apple-style hero section. We'll animate the headline, then the paragraph, then the button. Each element appears slightly after the previous one. This technique is called staggered animation. It's one of the most common techniques used in premium landing pages. Watch the final result. The headline appears, the supporting text follows, the button arrives last. The sequence guides the user's attention exactly where we want it to go. This is animation being used as communication, not decoration, not distraction, communication. And that's why it feels so professional. Now it's your turn. Time to earn your hero badge. Build a premium product card using everything you've learned today. Add hover elevation, add scale effects, add a smooth shadow transition, add a 3D tilt effect, create an entry animation, and if you're feeling ambitious, add a scroll-driven reveal animation as well. If you can complete that challenge, you've mastered the core animation skills used across modern front-end development. Before we finish, let's review what we learned. Transitions animate changes between states. Transforms are the foundation of modern UI animation. Translate moves elements. Scale resizes them. Rotate adds motion and personality. Keyframes create custom animation sequences. Animation duration controls timing. Fill mode controls what happens after the animation ends. Perspective creates realistic depth. And scroll-driven animations allow us to create advanced effects without JavaScript. Today, you stopped building pages and started building experiences. This is one of the biggest differences between junior and professional front-end developers. Professional developers understand that users don't just see websites, they feel them. And animation is one of the most powerful tools we have to shape that experience. In the next lesson, we're diving into CSS variables and logic. You'll learn how to build flexible design systems that are easier to maintain, easier to scale, and surprisingly powerful. Before you go, take the quiz linked in the description to lock in today's concepts. And if this lesson helped you level up your CSS skills, hit the like button, share it with another developer, and I'll see you in the next episode.